what is a song that y'all have been playing in your sets lately that's setting it off but is not on everybody's radar, like something that people wouldn't expect to work, but it's working?
You're listening to the Ozark Mix Podcast. Here are your hosts, Jonathan Revel and Russ Collins.
On today's episode, we are going to hear from a 10-year DJ veteran who has come into this industry from the transportation industry. And what we want to highlight today is that at any point in your life, if you want to become a DJ, you can do it. I started DJing when I was 41 years old. And Mike's not as old as that, but we've got Mike Romero here on the show, and we are so excited to hear what all Mike has been doing over the last 10 years of DJing. So let's get into it. Rev, you got a question for us, though.
So I want to launch it with this. I want to know, what is a song that y'all have been playing in your sets lately that's setting it off, but is not on everybody's radar, like something that people wouldn't expect to work, but it's working? So what do you say?
You know what? I think it's because of TikTok. Clearly, the disco in and of itself is kind of coming back a little bit. And ABBA's been hot, but not Dancing Queen. Gimme, Gimme, Gimme has been setting it off lately, which is weird. So what I've been doing is like, I've been adding, like some dance hall edit into Gimme, 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 and people are absolutely losing their minds. So
Mike, what's your song that you picked?
I'd say it goes mainly over with the millennial crowd, the mid 30s, Beauty and a Beat.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber, Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
Especially if you can find that chorus verse edit. It's one that they don't expect coming, but as soon as they hit and they recognize it, they're gone.
Bieber's working good lately.
Bieber is working.
I used to have a girl come up to me in Dallas like every week, and she'd ask for Beauty and a Beat. And for a long time, I didn't have that song. I didn't know what she was talking about.
You're like, I'm not playing
finally,
the Disney song.
Months later, I downloaded it, and she was so happy. But yeah, I still don't ever play it.
I feel like you're gatekeeping one, and you're not telling us which one it is.
Yeah.
So you need to tell us what's going on.
So Friday, I was playing a gig, and it was a younger college crowd, and these two guys came up and they asked me for Chainsmokers Closer. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I haven't played this since like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
I mean, not 10, 5. And so I played it, and dude, like everybody was singing every word and jumping when the beat dropped. Like and I think it's like coming back.
It is coming back.
Was it during was it for a wedding?
No, it was like a formal, like college dance.
Interesting. I was like, because I've played Closer and some of the other Chainsmokers stuff for like a dinner set, and like people bop their heads and kind of sing along, but I never thought to drop it in the middle of a dancing. I guess if you've got the right crowd.
There is a YouTube video out there of me of probably my third or fourth event at the ballroom at I Street, and I dropped Closer, and the place is going crazy. And that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
But here's the deal. I've been afraid of that song because I dropped it like a couple years ago and it was flat, bro. Like I was out.
Well, you feel like it's slow.
It doesn't have that energy.
It starts out, but the build, I think everybody knows the words. It's catchy. And then when that chorus beat hits, it goes off. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a country song that's got a remix of that I was showing you. It's got that Closer tune in it. I can't remember. I think it might be a Morgan Wallen tune, but somebody's remixed it, and it's bonkers, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it hits hard.
And I think that's a big part of what's making a lot of that 10, 15-year-old music popular again, is all these people are sampling it. And I think David Guetta has kind of started that trend of like, hey, let's start using some of these 20-year-old songs and revamp them. And then people are just rediscovering, and they're like, oh, well, what else was popular that sounds like this? And I think that's why those throwbacks are so popular these days.
It's a win.
And I love it. I'm here for it, man.
It throws me off because I'll check iTunes. That's where I normally check like what new music is out on the charts. And out of nowhere, there'll be like some song that's like 20 years old. And I'm like, this has to be a TikTok trend. Like that's the only way it shows up.
It's like that song, what was it, last summer, that Running Up That Hill song.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, dude, there's no way this will go off. And I would play it, man, and people would lose their head. I'm like, what?
Or Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, that dude riding that.
Yes.
The internet, man, it's a wild
such-
place. It's a wild place.
So speaking of wild places, Mike, you've jumped into being a DJ, and we so respect you. You work with us for off and on projects. You're doing a little bit more now, which we're super excited about. You and Rev connected when Rev came back into town. You and I have known each other from the wedding DJ world, and you and your lovely Sonia have built something pretty awesome with MR Entertainment. But I just want to hear, how'd you get into this game, dude? I mean, you came from the transportation space, and then you decide, I'm going to be a DJ now. Where did that come from?
So I unknowingly had wanted to be a DJ for years. Music's always been a huge part of my life. I played piano for 13 years when I was growing up. And had a buddy of mine when I was in the Army, Sean, who started his own audiovisual company and moved it to Nashville and invited me with him. And he's like, I'll teach you whatever you want to know. I had a kid at the time, so I was like, man, I can't just up and leave my family. And so I was like, I got to get a big boy job. And randomly one day, one of my buddies, Blake, commented on a job posting for a bar on Dixon Street that needed a bouncer.
Okay.
And I was like, why not? I'm a big brown dude. I'll go stand in the door and look intimidating. And it was a karaoke bar in Fusion on Dixon Street. And so I started working there, and about 4 months into it, one of the karaoke guys got fired. And so she was like, hey, I need somebody to work on Wednesday nights. And I was like, sure, why not? And all she cared about was music plays between singers. She's like, I don't care if you YouTube it, Spotify, if you want to DJ, go nuts.
Whatever.
And it was, you've seen those club DJ horror stories where it's like, here's the house system and it's all covered in
just
club
a rat's nest of crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just outdated, dilapidated, but I didn't know any better. And so when we were dead, I was like, let me just fiddle around. And then we'd open the patio during the summer, and I just started fiddling more on the patio because nobody wanted to be out in the 90-degree weather. And we were right next door to one of the biggest bars on Dixon, Shots.
Okay.
And Jason Deitch, Jason, if you're watching, I'm sorry. You got a weird last name. You know this.
He's watching. We know he is.
And he came over to me one day, and he's like, hey, getting ready to let my DJ go in about 2 weeks. Do you want his job? And I was like, no way. And he's like, I think you've got what it takes. He's like, you're a little rough around the edges, but I'll help you polish out what you need. But if you want the job,
but that's a big deal, dude. I mean, that was a big deal at the time.
And I was like, dude, there's no way. And I was like, let me think about it, because I'm not a just jump in and see what happens kind of guy. And he's like, I'll give you first right of refusal, but if you want it, it's yours. And so about 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, man, this weekend's his last weekend. I need an answer. And I was like, you know what? Worst that happens is I get fired, and the next day, let's do it.
Worst that happens, I get booed off. Nobody buys any liquor.
Using controller, or did you have?
So it was the one and only tractor controller that didn't ever have jog wheels. It was just cue pads and faders.
Interesting.
And the crossfade didn't work. Half the time the volume faders didn't work.
Dang.
It was rough.
So you're using tractor?
Yeah.
Wow. At a club.
Yeah. And making it work.
Oh my gosh.
And so my first night at Shots, the owner is standing in his little corner, which is right by the DJ booth. And so I'm aware of this the entire time. And I'm like, God, I'm so nervous. And he was the kind of guy that if you never spoke to him, it meant you were doing a good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that night I get done and Jason comes over and he's like, hey, walk with me to this other bar. And I was like, okay. He's like, Dave wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm getting fired. Day one. Fantastic.
Today's the day, dude.
I'm like, great. Listen, 24 hours into this and it's done.
That's awesome.
But he was like, I think you did great. I want to move you to Stir at the time.
Wow.
And Jason was like, I'm letting you know, this is a big deal. Stir is his baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, crap. No pressure. And from then on, man, it was off to the races. And I helped cultivate Stir for the last 2 years, roughly. It was there. And then we shut it down and turned it into Big. And we premiered Big. And then I took on more responsibility helping maintain the DJs at Shots and Yeehog when it opened. And
these are all venues here in Northwest Arkansas, so people know that.
Yeah, I say Stir was the big kind of dance hall, and then Big became kind of the main spot to go to just hear good music and chill. Shots is very much a flow bar. You go in, they do the little ice mold shots, you throw them on the ground, and then you dip. And then Yeehog is the main country bar with the mechanical bull.
Yeah.
And I tell people this not to be braggy, but just so people know that I know what I'm talking about. They were by far and away the 3 biggest bars on Dixon.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that I had a small hand to play in making sure they stayed that way in the music category. And then it eventually got to where weddings and private events were taking over to the point that I couldn't juggle both.
Mm-hmm.
And it became, well, do you want to work for somebody else 3 days a week, or do you want to work for yourself 24 hours a day?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right.
And you're like, I'm a terrible boss, so I'll work for myself.
Yep. I'm like, let's do this.
Let's do that.
So, yeah.
Well, it's been quite the journey. Like, so what I think I want to like really dive into today is like, Rev and I get a chance to talk about this, and we even talked about this last week, is that people just use the equipment that they have, like, and
starting out, you have to.
Yeah. The whole situation where people are just like, I got to have the right gear. I feel like people get locked up where it's like they don't move forward because they don't feel like they have what they really need. And all you really need is 2 sources of audio and a way to switch in between.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Right.
That's what I started with.
It sounds like that's kind of how you did. So as you did that and you began to adapt your own like sound, what were some of the like influences or ways that you really helped yourself get better,
So Jason had a big part to play in that until he moved on to bigger and better things and kind of helped me. And then honestly, a lot of it was just practicing at home and kind of seeing what did and didn't sound good. And then on slower nights at the bars and the clubs, just being a little more open and willing to fail in front of a crowd. Because when I started, I couldn't find YouTube videos. Everybody was so tight-chested with their information, and that drove me nuts because I was like, we all started at the beginning, and it drives, and you guys, I'm not saying you individually, but as a whole, like everybody had to figure it out. Why not share that information? And it drove me nuts that I couldn't find anybody to connect with that could answer my questions. And so it was definitely a learning curve and a pretty steep one. And I'm very thankful for Jason and his guidance, because I don't know that I would be here had he not taken a chance on me sitting in Infusion's patio going, does this sound good?
Yeah.
And then once I finally made some DJ friends, watching them, chatting with them, finding more YouTube videos, and then being like, oh, that's a good way to look at that. And always learning, always tweaking.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what this guy does. He'll be at a spot DJing, and if it's early and there's no people there yet, he's like testing different mixes, and he'll send me videos of like, check out these 2 songs that shouldn't work, but they do. And it's always like, I don't know, random stuff. I'm like, yeah, you make it happen.
I guess so.
It's funny though.
Yeah. How did you become, I don't know why, but you become the sounding board for like every DJ that you know.
Yeah.
I just literally sent him a video yesterday.
Yeah.
Of like, hey bro, check it out. It works.
Yeah.
How does that happen, Red?
I don't know. I don't want the job, but I got put into it. Make sure y'all are keeping it straight.
Dude, that's funny. That's really, really funny.
Well, dude, I wanted to ask you, you're talking, I think at one time you were kind of in charge of all the DJs for those 3 bars, right? Like you would hire other DJs. What were you like looking for, or what would you say to other DJs that are wanting to get into nightlife or bars? Like how should they approach that or impress you, like if you were booking someone?
Like if I was still there?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that got me to give somebody a shot was just being honest. I could tell pretty quickly if somebody knew what they were talking about, or if they were like, look, man, I just want to learn. And I never had a problem giving somebody new a shot if they've never DJ'd a club or anything before. And I would just tell them, be like, show up on Thursday or Friday or Saturday. If there's a cover, I'll take care of it, and just shadow me for the night or 2 and just watch what I do, watch how I ride the room, read the crowd, stuff like that. And if you didn't show up, cool. It's not skin off my neck, but if you showed up and I saw that you actually cared and wanted to learn, then I would, that was my big thing, is I didn't care if you had 20, 30 friends that you could bring with you. I didn't care if you had 1 million Instagram followers. It's like, what can you provide in this moment at this bar? And what can you do to make sure, not even elevate, but just maintain where we're at, you know? So
that's cool.
That is cool.
I had one time I was trying to find gigs, and this was in Dallas. It was actually up in like Frisco area. There was like a sushi bar opening, and they were looking for a DJ, and they had like tryouts. And there was like a DJ before me playing, and I think it was a girl up there mixing or whatever. So I just got up there and did my thing, and then they handed me like a job application with like all this government info. I was like, no, I'm okay. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not getting paid hourly.
Yeah,
I'm a
that's what it was.
Dog.
Like, we'll pay you $14 an hour to something. I don't know.
We're out on that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Wild.
So, Mike, so what I feel like I hear you saying is that like people need to go and approach the club music management if this is something that they want to break into. You know, I feel like it just goes a long way for people like going in person and finding the person in charge. It's like we're in such a DM slide in text society that this whole connection piece, you know, Rev talks about it all the time. It's like you got to be in person with people,
shake the
to
hands,
break into the industry. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, 100%. I'm not a big DM me guy. Like I want to at least have a face-to-face. And then if you want to text past that, cool. But if I just get a cold call or a cold message or something, I'm less likely to follow up, chase it down, take it seriously. Cause it's real easy to hide behind the keyboard, and I get it. I'm a socially awkward guy myself. So I get that it's an uncomfortable situation. But yeah, I would say having a face to put a name to. And that being said, the caveat, if you are going to try to talk to whoever's in charge of music and get a shot, don't do it when it's busy.
Yeah.
I've had so many people come up to me on a Saturday at 12:30 at night, and we're packed wall to wall, and they're like, "Hey man, can I talk to you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." When we close, or come in at 9 p.m. when we're just opening, like I'm happy to talk to you, but not when I'm busy. Like
can't now.
Yeah.
So what's got y'all like when you're in the club? Like what do you feel like is the most fun about it? Like, is it, you know? Or is it not fun? Like can be honest.
No, it's fun. I would say just watching the energy kind of grow and interacting with people, you know, and seeing what song, like you pretty much know what songs they're going to want if it's like a current nightclub that like wants, you know, current music. So you kind of save those bangers to the peak of the night, which is normally, you know, midnight, 1 o'clock. You drop that, you know, it's going to set it off, and then everybody's just raging. That's the best thing about it.
It's a lot of fun like that.
Yeah, I would say pretty similar. And then starting to slowly experiment with the songs. And when you hit them with that left curve that you know is a banger, but it's not a traditional what you'll hear in the nightclub, and just that collective, and just watch that energy just go up another level. Man, it's the high I'm still chasing.
It sounds like you kind of miss it.
I do, man. I do. There are more often than not times where I'm like, man, I wish I could go back, but and then I remember some of the horror stories that I've had. I'm like, never mind.
Yeah. And too, it's just like the amount of work and the amount of effort that you put in night after night at the club. Sometimes you just don't see the fruit of that as much as you do when you're at a private event. Monetarily, I guess, is what I'm.
One thing I noticed, like after doing nightclubs for so long, is when I got into weddings, I got to nerd out on the gear stuff again, and I kind of forgot what that was like, because they got all that stuff set up for you. You just show up with a backpack, and being able to like, you know, figure out lighting and make your own system and kind of make it all organized how you want with like labels. I'm kind of like OCD like that. That was like fun for me to figure all that out again. So that's different than the nightclub world.
Yeah. And what's got you guys both like super excited about DJing right now? Like what's the thing that's driving you, whether it's seeking out moments or technology or musical things? Like,
I'd say a lot of it is the resurgence in the 2000s throwbacks, late 90s, early 2000s stuff. And for me, and this kind of goes back to you were saying, like missing the clubs and stuff, the appreciation that private event clients have for what you do and what you provide for them versus at a club. I feel like at a club, there's an expectation that you're supposed to provide them with a good time. And obviously there is, but that same expectation is much more appreciated in my eyes anyways by a private client whenever it's the end of the night and they come up to you and they're like, we just had the best night of our life. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like my wedding this past Saturday, I was texting Rev about it. It was unfortunately a shorter reception because of the way we were at. And so I only had about 45 minutes to get him to dance. And I kept trying to move that timeline up. I'm like, hey, let's cut the cake. We're not ready. Okay. I'm like, well, I am. Like, let's go. You know? And so, yeah, I hit him with everything I could as quick as I could. And just cultivating those moments that you know that the people that got married and the people that attended, it's memories that they will take with them for the rest of their lives. And that doesn't necessarily... That's what gets me out of bed and gets me going on a Saturday when I have an event. And that wasn't necessarily the case when I was working a club. It was more of just I get to go play fun music and get people dancing. But I mean, unless somebody came and dropped a 20 in the tip jar, there was there's no appreciation there.
Yeah. And you're right. There is probably an expectation there. What about you?
So I've said this before. I'm excited about stems. Like, that technology is wild to me, but I'm going to go a little further. Conspiracy mode.
Okay.
We've talked about AI in the past. And everyone's like talking about how AI is working into like video editing and image, like Photoshop. Like it can just create images. I think music AI is going to become a thing where you can type in a few keywords and it'll just make a song.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to everyone's going to be the next Marshmello. Like they can just make whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it's going to open the floodgates of like, I don't know how it's going to go. It could get messy, but if everyone's making music, like imagine how crazy that would be.
Yeah. Well, did you guys hear? I want to hear this thought because this is like getting us into music industry stuff and like the whole thing. But I just read an article yesterday that Twitch is now going to pass along a 50% that the DJ that's DJing on Twitch has to pay to the label or to Twitch. So they're going to take 50%, dude.
Yeah.
To
not good.
To give back to the label. And I'm just wondering, like, at what point do labels become completely obsolete?
It's
because
close.
It's like DJs break songs, you know, like that's what people do. And I used to not be like that. I used to not say like, cause Rod, he'll say that all the time. It's like, DJs are what puts songs in the front. And I always thought, no, I don't know if it's that. But now that I've been doing this long enough, I really do feel passionate about that. And I'm like, how could Twitch how are you going to stay in business? Like, I do not understand.
The labels are trying to make money. Obviously, they've made a ton of money and they control the money. Whereas like they can put a lot of money behind an artist and marketing and concerts and all this stuff to drive the music. But it's going to change because with Spotify now, a lot of artists are just releasing their music on their own.
Yeah.
They're not using a label. I think artists mostly hate labels. They don't want to work with them. So like just cut that middleman out. Like the artists should just produce their own stuff and go straight to the customer.
I agree. I mean, it's such a crazy like time that we're living in, you know? Like I'm always thankful like that this is the time that I'm DJing because it's just wild. I mean, at the time that we're recording this, dude, that Coachella thing,
oh my God.
That Grimes deal. Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean,
that blew my mind. She's like, my BPMs have doubled. It was 380. And I was like, that's just
how is that?
Whatever the math was. In like 2 minutes, I was like, you just what?
I mean, and I'm not trying to hate on people, but it's like there's this really weird dicey thing with label, with artists, with crowd. And it's like, you got to be able to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
You know, And I think we figured it out pretty fast, you know.
I think that should be a standard at Coachella now. Like every DJ should just mess up and get on the mic and talk about what went wrong. And then
Coachella, they're receiving it right now. This is
she'll come out of it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. We were talking about it off air, and I was like, "Will this ruin that career?" And Rev's like, "Nah, she's gonna be just fine."
No, they'll forget about it in 2 months.
Yeah, she's got something happening. Well, so Mike, you are also, you're running your own sort of, business. How has that kind of shaped the way that you see DJing? You have a business, also you have a passion. I'm interested to hear that because I know I'm in kind of the same boat. But like, how has that shifted your, or at all, your mindset around, I'm a performer, but I'm also a business owner, but I'm also obligated to make this experience happen for people?
Yeah. I'm not good at the business side of it. And that's a conversation you and I have had and sat down and spent an hour or so talking about. And it's mainly because I had, and I'm working on my mindset of it, this misconception that like, if you are in the wedding industry, whether you're a caterer, florist, DJ, whatever, it had to be business first, passion second, and that you needed to be that, not necessarily suit and tie professional talking to a client, but there was no perceived level of personability. And that's not how I operate. Like I want to connect with my clients. I want to have that relationship and get to know them and cultivate that custom experience when they're having their event. And that's what I tell all my clients is I'm like, there are a few songs that you will hear at all of my events just because they're staples. Everybody knows them. But my goal is I don't cookie cutter anything. I don't copy paste. I don't download the DJ top 200 and just press play and just let it go.
Right.
And there are companies out there that do that and it works for them. And that's great. But my thing has always been, I want to make a personal connection with those people. Oh, by the way, I also sell this service, and I think that's something that I've struggled with and I'm improving and trying to improve and promote myself better on, which hasn't always been easy. And I mean, a perfect example, I got handed a silver platter of MR Entertainment won Best of NWA. Haven't done anything with it yet. It's 100% a badge.
That's a feather in your cap.
Yeah,
man.
and that's something that people around here are like, yo, that means something. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. And I don't know, I get uncomfortable about like feeling and like feeling pushy and being like, look what I'm a humble individual. Like I don't think I'm better than anybody else.
I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah. And so I don't want to be braggy. I don't want to be pushy or anything like that. So yeah, there's definitely a balance there of trying to showcase that passion and still run that business effectively.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of services that you offer, I wanted to dive a little bit into, like, I know you have like dancing on the clouds and the sparkler things that shoot up in the air and like kind of these a la carte items that some DJs might want to get into, but it's kind of pricey getting some of that stuff. And you got to like a lot of prep to make it work. Can you kind of explain, in your experience, has that been worth it to have those items? Like, how do you set that stuff up and make it work?
So the sparks were a good investment. The dancing on the cloud, I would struggle to say that it was, and it's my own fault. I didn't capture enough video content to be able to showcase what it can do. So when somebody hears it, they just think, oh, it's just a fog machine.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
Yeah.
It's
so different.
It looks
than that.
sick.
It's incredible.
It's a fantastic add-on. And so for the first little bit, I was doing it for free just to like, hey, this is what it can do. And people were like, holy crap, this is game changer type of thing. The cold sparks, I would definitely say, are worth the investment. Buy licensed products, especially when it comes to a cold spark, because the number one question I get, whether it's a client or venue or whoever, where's it going to catch on fire? I saw a YouTube video. I saw TikTok, and I'm like, I guarantee you those are knockoff Chinese ones that were $500 for 6 of them. Like, no, mine are licensed. They're made here in the U.S. Shout out to Ben and LFX. And so, I'm like, if you can afford it, buy the ones that are licensed. If it's something that you want to offer but can't afford, build a relationship with somebody in your area, find out what they would charge, and then either make it a wash with your clients or add $50, set that aside and invest it in that way.
Do you have to have some kind of license for the Sparks to run them?
Not currently in the state of Arkansas.
Okay.
I've reached out to the fire marshal at the beginning of the year, and they said that they have been, I don't know, this in some political way, they've been trying to figure out how to add it into the fire marshal scope. But as of right now, it does not fall under any pyrotechnics. But that being said, your mileage may vary. Check with your local fire marshal in your area.
That may change tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So you would say to someone who, let's say, they have a DJ company and they're looking to add an extra value add, you would say Code Sparks.
Mm-hmm.
You're busy enough with them that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wondered that because, you know, obviously I always refer to you. Yeah. So, I know that I would be in this office shooting them off all day and just having fun. And I would waste all of our stuff.
That's what I tell people. So, they ask me, they're like, how did you get those? And I was like, I'm an adult with big kid money and I make bad financial decisions. Like, I thought they were cool, so I bought them.
Well, we just ordered one of those Club Cannon CO2s and we have to have it for this weekend. And I'm like, I can't wait to get that thing in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to flip out with it, but I can't wait to make YouTube videos with me shooting it at Rev.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, I think private event DJs kind of sleep on certain add-ons and things that they can do to increase revenue. I know for us, like a couple years ago, we went the photo booth route and that has, you know, kind of taken on a life of its own.
So it's been huge for y'all.
And it had, you know, this year's been kind of weird and we've been playing with the idea of just kind of moving it back into the, like under the Ozark Mix sort of umbrella. But then this week, like now we've got like 15 leads for photo booth. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? What's going on? I was like,
I'm renting one from you for an event I've got in a couple weeks. Like,
I know. Yeah. So I think it's important that people don't pigeonhole themselves into, I don't like the word just DJing because it's so much more than that. It's like, if you want to be in business, there are a lot of opportunities. And if you just do what Mike just said, like he likes pyrotechnics, he had the money to buy it. So he bought it and he can sell it in a certain way. I don't know, man.
And I'd say a lot of it too depends on the amount of energy you're willing to put into providing that service. Mm-hmm. So like for the Dancing on the Cloud, right now, there's only one place within a drivable time that offers dry ice. And so I have to make sure that I allot myself enough time to go buy it and then still make it to my event with my time to spare to set up. The spark powder, you know, it's $80-$90 a bag. And so I've got to make sure that I have enough time to order it because no one here locally sells it. You know, and like the club cannons, you got to make sure you allot yourself time in a vehicle at that point for the CO2 tank itself. And so I'd say a lot of it, watch the trends because 2-3 years ago, monogram lights were huge.
Yeah. Now you can't.
Now nobody wants them because they're like, no, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know,
it can be done in so many different ways.
Yeah. You know, you put it on a TV, get a projector, whatever. And so I'd say if it's the newest, greatest thing that's coming out, I know a ton of guys that as soon as something drops, they've got to have it. And I'm gonna let other people fail with it first before I jump in. Yeah. And that's how it was with the Sparks. As the Sparks hit, and I was like, those are super cool. Don't know if there's a need for them in the area. And about 6 months into them, and I saw how big they were becoming. I was like, all right, I'll jump into this and see what happens. And it took me a little while to get people to realize what they were. But once they've started building that momentum, people are like, oh, I want that. I want that. Yeah. You know,
gotta have it. Gotta have it. All right, let's play a little game.
Oh, God.
Dropping this on you. So I'm going to say something and you're going to say in or out, like that it's you give it thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay. Mike just mentioned TVs on the front of the DJ booth, in or out?
I say out.
Out.
See, that's tough. I think DJ Low Stacks makes his look so
his
clean.
His looks good. He's so the clean. Only one that looks good.
But just imagine like
But overall,
moving
I'd say
that
out.
around and like it getting cracked or something, it's just too much stress for me.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
And it's something else in the chain that can fail.
And then you have to edit some kind of visual to go on there, like every wedding, or I guess you can leave it black. I don't know.
But then at that point, why have a TV?
Yeah.
So I'd say
if you're
with
using
the exception
it,
of low stacks, I'd say out.
Yeah.
Because his is crisp. I like his, but otherwise, I'm out.
All right. So in or out on the wedding day of the wedding, introducing every single couple separately, in or out?
Out.
Especially, oh my gosh, especially when they're like, each one of them want their own individual song.
Oh yeah.
My gosh.
Just like
first and last name.
We're out. All right. Last one. In or out, the MC doing monologues and saying things about people in the bridal party. I have had this trend coming into my world that you should have story time at the wedding to elevate the experience.
I want to hear more about this after the show.
It's crazy. It's a thing. There are a couple of DJs that are very well known out there that would have you go to their MC like course and teach you that you should, elevate your experience by doing a lot of MC work and a lot of monologue work at the event. And I would go thumbs down.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not a microphone DJ.
Yeah, I don't think you should talk at
unless
all.
you have to.
I feel like people want to get into they want to have fun with the people that they're with and they want to dance. And there's really no in between.
Yeah. Well, and like if you're at a wedding, that's what toasts are for.
Right.
Like they're going to tell stories and it's actually someone important to the people. No one wants to hear the DJ that's not related to these people at all tell any kind of story. Like just keep it.
That's what I was going to say
simple.
is it's like if anybody needs to monologue and do a story time, it needs to be somebody that has that deep connection.
Yeah.
Now, if it's somebody that like my brother got married or whatever, like that's a little more understandable as a DJ or my sister, whatever. But it's like, if I just got hired to do your event and I've got a little bit of rapport with you, I don't need to tell you about, remember when Aunt Sally, blah, blah, blah. and I'll ask your question to the two of you, because this drives me absolutely nuts. When you're doing your introductions, hey, everybody, welcome to so-and-so's wedding. How's everybody feeling tonight? And everybody cheers. Oh, I know you can do better than that.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing makes me cringe harder. And there are prominent DJs that are out there on YouTube, and that is their shtick. I need more from you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we at, a Tony Robbins concert? Like, what is going on here?
I totally avoid how's everybody feeling?
Yeah,
like, I don't want to
never say
ask any questions. I just want to make my announcement, welcome the people in, and like keep it moving.
Be done.
Anytime that you can cause like crickets is not good.
No.
I tell people the music speaks for itself.
Right.
Yeah.
But then to have to follow it up with another set of questions is like the worst. And I think that's what gets people really shy of becoming a wedding DJ is the fact that they don't want to do that. And they've seen that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Which leads me into, we actually have a video that we're going to throw right up here right next. That's our wedding MC video. And you guys can check that out as we kind of finish this up. And also if you want our scripts and all the things that we use for our teams, it's in the link in the description below. But I just wanted to say to Mike, dude, thanks for being with us and hanging out.
I appreciate
with us.
Before we go, Mike, you got to tell one horror story of something that went terribly wrong while you were DJing. You shouldn't have that many.
It's like, can I go with what went right? I've listened more of those now. Oh man, let's see. Like while I was DJing,
yeah.
Oof. I'd say probably, I'd say I have two. The first one was the very first wedding I ever did. I didn't know what I was getting into. And I was brutally honest with the couple. I was like, I don't know anything about weddings. And they're like, it's fine. And I love them to death. They still advocate for me to this day. I ran out of music to play.
Oh,
Really?
I didn't have enough on my library to keep it going because I still had the club style of like quick mixing, but a lot of my club stuff was dirty. And I was like, I need to have clean music for a wedding. I didn't have nearly as deep a bag. And so we're like an hour left into dancing. And I was like, all of these are blue.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Oh no.
And so I would play like the few I had left. And then I'm like, hotspot, download.
Really?
Hotspot,
Really?
download, play it. Yeah.
Did you ever have any pauses?
No.
Oh my
No,
God.
thank God.
They do. I would
That's
give me a
stressful.
heart
Pauses,
attack,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah. No, it was.
You were hotspotting
get-
off your phone to
Bro,
download
I'm
music?
getting chills right now.
Yeah,
Just
dude,
thinking
it was
about
bad.
that.
Yeah.
It was real bad. But yeah, I mean, and I'm the only one that knew.
Well, yeah,
But yeah, it
That's
was
crazy.
It was
Dude,
stressful.
that's insane, man.
And then I did one where the officiant was the uncle of the bride, but raised her like it was his daughter. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I'll play their exit song when you announce them, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And so we get there, and this was at Sassafras at the Ruins. And so I'm kind of in the corner. I got the speaker off to the side, so I'm kind of out of photos and stuff. And the officiant's like, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Lopez, or whatever their name was. And everybody's, woo, and I'll pronounce you, yeah. And everybody's cheering, and they turn, they raise their arms, and they go to start walking. So I fade into their big exit song, whatever. And the officiant's like, no, wait, turn the music off. Let us pray. And I'm back there like,
What?
Oh,
are you serious right now? And of course, everybody's going to think that I'm the one
That's
that
your
messed
fault.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I now make it a point at every single wedding. I talk to the officiant. I'm like, what is the very last thing you're going to say before
Yeah.
they walk off?
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And I'm like, because I have
'Cause I
a
need to
song
know.
and I need to know if you're going to, Mr. and Mrs., let us pray, whatever. And they're like, oh, no, I'm just going to announce it. And I'm like, you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
So,
dude.
Yeah. No,
Well,
that one,
Dude, that's crazy.
that was some drama.
What a fun experience.
That
We've had
wasn't
some
as bad as I
fiasco.
expected. Like, your story wasn't bad. I've had worse than that happen.
I said, I think the only other one I had was, luckily it was a friend of mine, and they did their first dance, and then we were going to go into her and her dad. And so I made the announcement, and then they were like, oh, just kidding. His mom isn't feeling good. They want to knock their dance out first. So I'm like, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, groom and his mom. Sounded better at the wedding. But I was like, here you go. And I played the bride and daughter, dad's first dance. And
Oh,
it
no.
was like
That's what happened to me.
30 seconds in, and she's like, hey,
Different
this is my song. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Uh-oh.
oh, and I was like,
Floop.
sorry.
Yeah.
It's only happened to me one time.
Yeah.
I had one. I don't know how it got flipped, but the groom and his mom were out there, and I play the song, and they just start dancing like it's normal. And then I'm listening to the lyrics, and it's like, Daddy's little girl.
No.
And I'm like, this is not the right song. So I just got on the mic, and I was like, sorry, just realized this is the wrong song. Let's try this again. And I just played the next one, and
All right,
everyone was
Grimes.
like, okay, like it was all right. but
Yeah.
It made me feel bad.
Yeah. It happens, man. I had it was probably my fourth or fifth wedding, and the bride and her mom got into a massive fight during family pictures, and the bride left.
Wow.
She left, and she did not come out for an hour and a half. And we were dancing by the time she came out. And
That's
crazy.
finally she came out, and it was the most awkward situation I've ever encountered at a wedding. And at that same venue, probably 2 years later, we get done with a ceremony, and we're in the reception, and the bride gets like physically sick, and she cannot continue. And she's like, Russ, we're shutting it down. I'm going home.
Wow.
Dang.
I'm going home. Like, it was, dude, this world is crazy, man. There's so
Yeah.
many things that could,
I'd say the
it's just wild.
the not worst, but I guess funniest thing I've had to do as a DJ. I was doing a ceremony, and it's time for the flower girl to go down. So I've got their song going. I'm off to the side, and she walks down, and it's a ballroom at I Street outside. So they got the chairs lined up in the aisle, and she gets to right here, and she's like 4 or 5 years old, and she just freezes,
Oh no.
and the song's playing, and I'm like,
You can do this.
do stuff. Come on, you got this. And it's the bride's daughter. So it's not like the mom can run out and be like, hey, you got this. And she's standing there, and she's looking around, and she's like, nope, puts her
Frozen.
basket down in the middle of it and just runs off.
Oh,
Wow.
And everybody in the crowd's like, what do we do? And so I'm like, I got it. And so I run up, grab the basket, grab a handful of flowers, and I'm just like, and ran back. And I was like, all right.
Mike
Hey.
started the TikTok trend of the guy with the beard throwing the flowers.
Yeah, I
dude.
was just like, here's some. Like,
Oh my
nobody else is gonna
gosh,
grab it, and so I
dude.
just ran back, and they just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny. You
On-
saved the day.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Mike Romero, everybody.
I appreciate
Thanks
you
for
guys
coming,
having me,
Mike.
man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
See y'all next week.